your idea behind the Anderson Center? Was it just kind of an extension of, okay, now I really want to not just impact the students, but it's like the whole community?
There were several things, and you talk about trailblazing. So I know that my calling in life is that of a change agent. And with the Anderson Center, we acquired the property about a year after Hurricane Harvey. Our community was hit harder than any other community in town over on the east side. Right. Your dreams are possible. Like, you don't have to be limited by your color. You don't have to be limited by your circumstances. It says they took up 12 baskets of fragments and nothing was wasted. And so when I think about all of the broken things and broken pieces and broken places in my own life and how God has used those, right? It takes me back there. Nothing is.
Hi, my name is Sienna Calderon, and I am the host of the Legacy Circle podcast. This is episode 3, and I have here Mrs. Michelle Bonton from the Anderson Center of the Arts. Thank you.
Glad to be here today.
Likewise. If you can please introduce yourself.
Okay, sure. So I am Michelle Anderson Bonton, and I am founder and executive director of the Anderson Center for the Arts, where we are focused on expanding arts access in underserved communities and preserving Black history and culture.
Beautiful. And so, one of the main reasons I wanted to have you here is because, we know this. We know that they are, schools are defunding art or don't have a lot of funding for art. And so, take us to that place of, or take us back to, why you started it. And I know that your background is in education, so kind of take us back to that place.
Okay, sure. So in addition to being an arts administrator and founder of the Anderson Center, I'm also a retired educator of about 30 years. I taught high school. I was a school counselor and a school principal. And during my tenure as an educator, one of the things that I noticed in the community where I served is that there were not a lot of arts programs available outside of the school, and even the programs that were available in the schools were very limited. And so out of that, ultimately, I actually founded a school, a performing arts school called RHODES School for Performing Arts, and ran that for about 17 years, and then retired. And because I love the arts so much and because I felt like I still had something to offer, the Anderson Center was born. And so here we are almost 6 years later.
Wow. So, to even start a school, how was that process? It was out of a need of you seeing that there wasn't, their needs weren't being met, or how did that come about?
Sure. So, in terms of what it was like, I refer to it as a birthing process. And if you've ever had kids, like all the things, right? The messiness, the pain of it, emotionally, the wear and tear, physically, but then the joy, right, that comes when the baby's born.
Yeah.
And my journey towards starting RHODES School for Performing Arts really was a birthing process. I went to my district at the time and shared with them a plan for a summer arts program, and they were not interested. And I am very much a person who will ask to sit at whatever table exists, but if I do not get that opportunity, then I just go build my own table. And so we did start the summer program, ran that for a number of years, and realized that a lot of the students who were going through the summer program were graduating. My daughter was going through school at the time, so these were her peers. So they were all graduating in the top 10% of their class. They were all honor society students, all college bound, and all of them, I would say about 95% of them, had continued their performing arts. And so that's kind of when the bulb went off. It's like, okay, we might have something here.
Yeah.
And so again, that was, how the RHODES School was born. I tell people it is why I do not have a PhD, because the application was a dissertation. It was 286 pages long.
Wow.
And so we were able to bring that organization to life. And as I said, served and worked there for 17 years, grew that organization from one campus and 5 employees to 4 campuses, over 1,700 kids and almost 200 employees. That's before crazy. Hurricane Harvey. And, again, when I retired, I was able to hand that off to my daughter, who now serves as superintendent of the school and runs that, and start the Anderson Center, which is, also a birthing process, but I'm enjoying it and having fun.
That's beautiful. I mean, gosh, you've kind of trailblazed your way through it all, and now to be able to then pass the torch on to your daughter, it's great. And so, for you, I mean, what was your idea behind the Anderson Center? Was it just kind of an extension of, okay, now I really want to not just impact the students, but it's like the whole community?
There were several things, and you talk about trailblazing. So I know that my calling in life is that of a change agent. That has just kind of been how things have happened. My experience is like, so I know that that is my calling, whatever that might end up looking like. And with the Anderson Center, we acquired the property about a year after Hurricane Harvey. Our community was hit harder than any other community in town over on the east side.
Right.
And so there is a big difference between just kind of like meeting emergency needs and recovery is a long-term process. And so as we looked at the community, what was going to happen with the students and what the needs were, we recognized, and we being the people that I was working with, because it's never just you, right?
Right.
So we just recognized that there were no arts institutions in the community. There were no gathering places in the community where people could come together, create shared experiences, and things like that. And so that's kind of where the idea for the Anderson Center was born. Is here's what we can do with this space, with this building, and yeah. So yeah.
That's wonderful. And I actually do want to pivot for a second. You know, what was it like for you? Because you're a Houston native, I'm assuming. So what was like for you growing up, and how did your community shape you?
Oh gosh, so I am a community flower child, the person that's kind of like all over. And so I claim roots in Third Ward, in Fifth Ward, and in South Park. My
Okay.
grandmother raised me. My grandmother lived, South Park, Third Ward. I went to Jackie Yates High School. But I was born in Fifth Ward, Texas, and still have family, right, both in South Park and in Fifth Ward, not in Third Ward anymore, but in Fifth Ward. And so, being in all of those spaces that were very rooted in Black identity was really, really powerful for me. I, grew up seeing people who looked like me do really amazing things, hearing about them. My father was a professional singer. And I have relatives that sang and things like that. So the arts have always, to some degree, in some way, been part of my world, and that's really what I remember most about growing up, was just this deep sense of community and belonging, and this grounding in the arts. So.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I think I see this today where it's like representation matters and seeing yourself, right? The fact that you had, your family that was already in the arts. So take us to that. What did you feel like that exposed you to?
Oh, just a love of it. My grandmother sang. She didn't sing often, but she could sing. And as I said, I grew up hearing stories about my father singing professionally. Who he used to sing with this group called Archie Bell and the Dales, or the Drills, and they had this one hit song called "Tighten Up." That if you're like the generation before me, everybody's supposed to know what it means. But I grew up hearing about that, and I grew up sitting in also on rehearsals, at my aunt's home, and they actually had albums and things like that. I can't like remember all the names. I was so young,
Yeah.
but I remember like those moments and sitting and watching them, and I cannot sing. So yeah, my creativeness comes in, being able to see and put things together, do this vision, right? But
Appreciate
yeah,
it.
exactly, and to give it, to share it, to with other
Yes.
people, because that's its own thing as well. To make sure that they have access and all of that. Um, and so yeah, I mean, it just kind of seeing that and knowing that and wanting to connect with that also, because I couldn't sing. They could, all sing, but
Right.
I couldn't sing, and I had cousins who could sing, and so how do I fit like into this family that could sing and I can't, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's some of that was maybe part of my thinking and my makeup and things like that. So.
So I guess was that kind of like an identity thing? Like where did you start to find your footing?
Pretty early on. So I never aspired to be, a great singer or anything like that. But very early on, I found my voice in writing. I have a gift for writing. I write really well. And that was kind of like the first thing. So I could tell stories and I could create, these pictures and these worlds. And, and I used to say all the time, I can't sing, but I can talk a song so good it'll feel like I'm singing. And so, yeah, I mean, that was my lane, and I was comfortable with that. And, yeah, and there was never, any pressure from a family perspective. I'm remembering something. I do remember being about 5 or 6 years old, and having my grandmother stand me up on the table, the dining room table, and it's like, "Come on, sing! Your daddy can sing." And so I think I probably thought I could sing until I was about 10, and then my friends were like, "Girl, you don't have that gift." But yeah.
That's wonderful. And so, I mean, as a kid, how was school life? How did that look like for you?
So school was a place that I loved being. My life it's almost like two different lives. I there was one experience when I lived with my grandmother. My mom had me very very young, and so there was this one world when I lived with my grandmother, and things were one way, and when I lived with my mom, things were like another way, right? And school really became a place of solace for me. So I love school. Like I was the kid that if I missed the bus, I'm walking. It was 3 miles, but I was gonna walk because I was gonna get to
Yeah.
school. And so, and because I was in gifted and talented, programs and all of that. And because of that, I really was blessed to have teachers who saw me and saw the potential in me, and so gave me guidance that my mom, because of her youth and her own challenges, was not able to give. So yeah.
Now, did you have teachers that for you were, like role models or anything
Oh,
like that?
absolutely. So there are two really three people. There was my third grade teacher, Mrs. Taylor, and she was the first person that I can remember who stood up for me. There was an incident that happened at school. You all know the cafeteria ladies are like really, really mean. And so I was a greedy little kid. And there was an incident at school where I was, given like this piece of chicken or something on a tray. And I was the kid that was going to say something like, so I was like, hey, I don't want that. And so Miss Taylor, like in that moment, really stood up for me and literally went like head to head with this cafeteria person. And I was like, I don't want you to get fired, you know. So I remember Mrs. Taylor, and that was when I knew I wanted to be a teacher. It was a very challenging time in my life personally. And I remember thinking, I want to do for some kid what Miss Taylor has done for me. And so I was in third grade at the time. And then there was Mrs. Bailey, who I guess just saw something in me and wrote me this letter at the end of fourth grade telling me that she said, it seems to me that your aim in life is to reach the moon. She said, just keep reaching, and even if you don't catch the moon, maybe you'll catch a star. And I never forgot that. And I'm almost 60 now, right?
Yeah.
But I remember that. And then finally, there was Mr. Ridley, who let me skip gym class every day for an entire year to come to his class because I struggled with math. I think I just didn't have the best teacher in math. But anyway, Mr. Ridley got it, and so I was skipping gym to go to math class, and I think he and the gym teacher got together because I thought I was smart. I was in middle school. It's like they don't know. And toward the end of the school year, the PE teacher walks up to me and she says, "If you want to pass my class, you better come to class like these next couple of weeks." And I was like, "You knew I wasn't here." So obviously she and Mr. Ridley had gotten together, but just having like even the opportunity to have people in your life who recognize this kid is not skipping class just because she's out doing something, like she's literally going to a whole other class
Right.
so she can learn. And so teachers, yeah, they really made a huge impact, and I tried to bring that to my work as an educator and as a school leader and school founder.
Yeah. How have, I mean, given that you have kind of worn so many hats throughout education, I mean, how is that kind of giving you that perspective when it comes to like your organization and how you just do things?
It's just that. It's that I have worn so many hats, both in my personal life and in my work life. And I love to tell about my favorite Bible story. It's in the book of Matthew. Everybody always talks about the 5 fish and the 2 loaves of bread, right? And how Jesus fed the 5,000. But my favorite part of that story is that at the end, it says they took up 12 baskets of fragments and nothing was wasted. And so when I think about all of the broken things and broken pieces and broken places in my own life and how God has used those, right? It takes me back there. Nothing is wasted. Nothing had no pain has been wasted. No joy, no learning, none of it has been wasted. God has used everything and brought it to bear in my work and on the to the people that I serve. And so that I think is the reason that I've been blessed to make such impact.
So as far as, take us through, Anderson Center. I've been able to witness your artists and the work that they've done, and it seems like this is a community for them. Like they're there through it all, right? Like they showcase their art, but then they're also engaged and still a part of it. So take us through that.
Yeah, would love to do that. So that is, again, as I said, been a birthing process. We started out because the Anderson Center is a 20,000 square foot facility. We have a 750 seat theater. Let me do the commercial now. We have a 750 seat theater. We've got multiple spaces for rent and all of that. And so, of course, when I acquired the building, the thinking was, well, I'm gonna make a little money in retirement. I'm gonna help the community, but I'm gonna make a little money in retirement. And we were going to rent these studios to artists.
Yeah.
And that happened at the same time when, during President Trump's first term in office, like all of that. And so what we quickly recognized was that these artists need support. And if we really are going to be of benefit to the community, we've got to kind of pivot. And so we went from trying to rent the studios to artists to now we give the studio space away. They get a studio space for an entire year at no cost to them. And on top of that, the Lord has used my writing skills, and I write grants in order to get funding so that they can have support for solo exhibitions, right?
Okay.
And so it just kind of morphed from let's leverage this to the entrepreneur in me, let's make some money and all that, to no. There is a real community need here, and you are positioned to fill that need through this space and through the gift that you have for writing. So let's do that. And so that's how the residency was born. And over the last, I think we're in our 3rd year. Over the last 3 years, I think we have been able to support about 17 residents.
Okay.
And what I love about it is, just as you said, like they stay connected, like to the community. They don't just go away. Everybody still has a code to the door, like all of that stuff. But what we have seen is that it builds their capacity. They go on to do such amazing things. We have the most recently, two of the artists were selected by the Houston Endowment to be one of their um, 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 highlighted artists. We have somebody else, Keita Sharba. I think she won her documentary film, was accepted into a film festival.
Wow.
Will North is now a lecturer for the Museum of Fine Arts Houston and working with Rice University. So it's just, and that is what we wanted to do, is to give them a platform to showcase their work so that they could get other opportunities and have a more level playing field, like alongside the artists who are not artists of color. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that. Well, so okay, so it looks like you guys do everything from like paintings to film. What else do you guys promote or?
Okay, so that's the thing that makes the residency program at the Anderson Center unique from other residency programs. We will take multiple disciplines within a single cohort.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter whether you, like, we've had a movement artist, a dance artist before. We have had a scentologist, a photographer, visual artists. We haven't had a theater person yet, but we have had a couple of filmmakers, and so it just kind of depends on who applies,
Yeah.
and who we think is a fit.
Okay.
Yeah, and that application process literally just closed last week. So yeah.
Okay, okay.
So
I was
since
about
you're
to ask about that. And then, so as far as that goes, and then what else? Because I know that you guys had like the big. Is that like your big event? Is the one in December?
Yes, thank you. So, Evening of Elegance is our annual event that we do every year, and it consists of a market and also a stage production. What makes it unique is that there is always a pretty much all black cast. All the performers are black. So again, it is giving black creatives an opportunity to showcase their work. It's the first Saturday of every year. And the tickets are very reasonable. They run anywhere from about $45 to $75. All the seats in the house are amazing seats, so it's really really cool. And it is if you live like northeast and you're tired of going downtown and all the places, you can come right there to the Anderson Center. We're very centrally located, plenty of parking that's free. So yeah, and this year I'm really excited about this year's show because the theme is a few of my favorite things. So it's going to be a repertory show.
Okay.
Yeah, whereas in the past we've had opera. We had the Houston Ebony Opera Guild, and then the next year we did a full-fledged opera called Them All and the Night Visitors. So this year is going to be a repertory show. And
What
I'm
is
very
that
excited.
exactly?
Oh, you get all the things. So there's going to be a little dancing, a little singing, some acting.
Oh, wow.
I'm pushing for this segment called Jesus Jeopardy. Y'all really want to watch that? So yeah, so you get all the things. Yeah, with a
Okay.
repertoire show.
Nice. And then, so yeah, run us through because I know that is one of the things like artists do, struggle when it comes to like getting out of school or if they decide not to go to school, like higher education. Like, what is how have you guys been able to kind of guide them?
Or support them. So I'm glad you talked about artists and the struggle because one of the things that I constantly talk about is the fact that Houston has a $1.2 billion creative economy. When we think about art, we think about you should have art because it makes people feel good. And yes, it does. But it is a business. We are sitting in a creative space, right? It takes skill to run these mics and this camera and that soundboard. And that is an industry. And it is the same thing like with the visual arts. There's so many things that are connected to it. With theater, there's so many things that are connected to it. And so what we do basically is we give the space and we give the platform and we give the dollars to present, right? So we may not, we don't build capacity in terms of training you. You have to come with that, right?
Okay.
You have to come with some concepts, some knowledge, some skills. We can connect you with people that can help you with your practice.
Right.
But if you need a stage, we own the stage and we can give that to you. If you need materials and supplies, we've got funding for that and we can give that to you. If you need walls to show your work because MFAH, Museum of Fine Arts, may not think you're ready, right? Or whatever other organization there might be, we can give you that. And so that's kind of the role that we play. The other thing about owning our own space, which I think is critically important for organizations of color, own the dirt that you're on, right? Because we get to choose who's on the stage.
Right.
And we get to choose who's on the walls. And what we understand is that there are dollars associated with who's on the stage and who's on the wall, right? So we work to build an ecosystem. And so that means if we're looking for photographers, we've got a roster of, Black and brown photographers that we're going to call first. They're highly qualified. They have all the training, all the stuff, right? But we're calling them first.
Right.
And the reason, again, we're doing that is because right now the playing field is not level, and we're in a position to level that playing field. And so that's what we try to do.
I love that, like your own network of
Exactly.
people. Now, I did have a question. So for the artist residency, is there an age limit? Like, what are some of the qualifications for that?
We never really thought about that. So I guess I would say you need to be at least 18. We never said that, but everyone who's come through has been at least 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's, in terms of an age requirement, that's pretty much it. In terms of content and material, we don't really censor a whole lot, but I'm old and there's some stuff I just don't want to deal with, and it's my building, and so, like, listen, if your grandma can't come see it, well, maybe not your grandma, maybe your auntie. If you don't want your auntie to see it, it's probably not going to be on the walls. So, but apart from that, I mean, we are not afraid to treat, certain subjects, and I mean, it just kind of depends. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. And then, I mean, for kids specifically, are there specific programs that you guys offer?
So the last 2 years, year before last, we did our own summer camp. Last year, we partnered with the Ensemble Theater. They brought their Young Performers Camp to our site, and we were able to provide 3 weeks of theater and production experiences at no cost for students, and we're hoping to be able to do that again this year.
Okay.
We are also working on a program called Real Impact, which is a workforce development program where we're going to bring students in, teach them the rudiments of filmmaking, and at the end, our goal is to be able to give them a stipend so that they start to connect the idea of a career choice with the creative fields. So that is what we're working on for this year. Yeah,
That's
we'll know whether that's gonna happen in about 3 weeks.
Okay, that's incredible. And then, as far as any events that are coming up, if you can share that with us.
So right now we don't have any specific thing on tap, but the center is open Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's no cost for admission. We've got beautiful artwork on the wall. We love to talk to people about who we are and what we're doing, so drop by.
That's wonderful. And how can we all follow you or stay connected?
Okay, cool. So it's real easy. It's just theandersoncenter.org. If you're on Facebook, it's the Anderson Center. If you're on Instagram, it's at the Anderson Center. So yeah, if you remember the name, then you can find us.
Perfect. And then one last question. This is Legacy Circle. So what is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
Oh, wow. I think I want to leave behind the legacy of possibility, like what is possible.
Yes.
Regardless of where you started, what's possible in between where you start and where you end up. That's really like what I try to share with people, is that your dreams are possible. Like, you don't have to be limited by your color. You don't have to be limited by your circumstances. I am the daughter of a convicted felon who died in prison for all of my dad's gifts, right? That was the same person that was the professional singer. He ended up dying in prison. My mom was challenged with drug abuse. I was moved from home, like all the stuff, right? But here I sit right? School founder, not just a school leader, but a school founder, an institutional founder that continues to impact people and kids and all that. So I guess, yeah, I guess that would be it for me. It's just that idea of legacy of possibility.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining us
you.
today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.